I'm about to set the record straight. Part 1, something to do with the prince.
Hey, welcome to the Aspirian LARPCast. My name is Jam. I've got my buddy Diddy with me.
Hello there, Kenobi. Maul.
And we have our fellow GM, Chowder McChow.
We never did the crack.
We'll get the crack in there.
Okay. Chow's drinking some Red Bull right now. He's deliciousing
Say
it.
hi to anyone?
I thought I just did.
Yeah,
He's going to set the record straight.
That's what I'm here to do. Is set the record straight. We're having fun.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into it. We're going to talk...
Yeah, we're going to get into it.
I'm sensing some hostility now that we started recording.
We're going to talk Prince Kodey. We're going to talk a little bit about Meraxis.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, you play two characters, so we have to talk about two characters.
I haven't played Meraxis in so long.
Yeah, I know.
Dope.
All right.
It's exciting.
So, let's get into it then.
Yeah.
All right. So, if you heard our intro clip there, that was Chow saying he was going to set the record straight. So, apparently, Ethan and I have misrepresented the prince somehow. And we are hoping that Chow can do exactly that, set the record straight. So, please, Lord Chowder, explain to us what you have that is opposite to what we have communicated.
Well, I believe it was the Season 3, Episode 2 podcast that you...
You have a specific episode?
I do. I have
okay.
I believe it was that specific one.
I'm glad he has references.
That's good,
Or possibly when you were talking with Hunter. I don't know why my character came up when you're talking with Hunter, but none of my characters intertwined with his. But
Elliot was there at the Battle of Kingsfall.
yeah, but was he really?
Yes. That's what being present means.
Yeah, what are you saying about Elliot?
Nothing.
Let's hear what you have to say about Elliot, and we'll hear about the prince.
I think Elliot is a phenomenal guy. I think he's doing what he can with the resources that are provided to him.
Good recovery. Okay. So, Season 3, Act 2, was Episode 2 of the LARPcast.
I believe so.
Okay. What did we say?
Well, you were talking about the 5-year jump, and talking about how the prince was just completely hopeless and completely lost in some sort of helpless state. And I don't think that's where the prince is at all. I did have a thought, and I kind of want to flesh it out a little bit. So I'm thinking the prince is just he's in this state right now of obligation. So I think you would have been right when the king died, and we all saw the prince had a panic attack, and he's picking up dirt and he's collecting it and holding it close to his chest and then puts it in the throne room. I think he was hopeless there, but in that 5-year gap, I think he just picks a task, which I believe I communicated. I don't know how many people remember it, but Nomad and I were essentially kind of like Aragorn in his ranger state, and we were just traveling throughout the close proximity of the ruins of the valley where we both inhabit alone, like no one else is with us at Valley Keep, and we're hunting the harrowing. That's all we do, day and night. It's kind of like a Will Smith thing from I Am Legend. I think even with that comparison, he has Will Smith is like he's constantly searching for help. He's searching for, he's not hopeless because he's continuing to put out the podcast or the radio frequency or, all that stuff. He's still searching for the, I lost my train of thought.
What radio frequency podcast are you referring to?
In I Am Legend?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand now.
So I think that's where the prince is at in the time jump. Not necessarily hopeless or anything like that. He's more so fulfilling an obligation he believes he has, which is clearing out the harrowing.
Why? Why is that an obligation the prince has? How is that different from the state you saw him when the king died to then the state you see him within the time jump? What's the difference there? How did it get there? Why does he feel like that is his obligation?
I think that really goes back to a lot of the prince's past, which I'm really excited to flesh out, because I don't feel like a lot of people know the prince's past, or even the king's past. So we'll kind of get into both of that with just talking about the prince. But immediately, I think it would be a sense of obligation because the prince no longer has a family. The king is dead. Parents are dead. Brother, Josh of House Wright is dead. So this is really all the prince has anymore. And the harrowing in the prince's mind seemed to be a direct result of the life room being destroyed and the king dying, which the prince was there and he failed, right? The king died and the prince's whole goal was he's not gonna die. So
how does the prince's past have anything to do with what you're referring to now?
The prince grew up. Obviously, he would have done a lot of training at the Valleyhead Keep with James and Jared and Josh of House Wright and Hunter Felix. But many people don't know this. There's this X amount of time where the prince was actually sent off from training at the Valleyhead Keep to be part of the Rangers of Marcus Watkins. And that was actually a disgraceful thing to do to him instead of something that would honor him. Many people don't really know this, but the prince was always viewed as kind of like a bastard or an illegitimate son in his family, never living up to the potential that James II had, never living up to his father's expectations, and I think we saw this a little bit at the very end of season 2 when we all kind of had that Avengers Assemble moment. The ghost of James I came, or it was more of a hallucination because the prince was facing extreme exhaustion and all that stuff coming down from the battle of the Great Bastion Fear. So he'd been fighting for 48 hours straight, and he's starting to see these hallucinations. And one of them was his father, who is belittling him, talking down to him, cursing the day he was born. And this has a profound impact on the prince because the prince is like, well, I'm not nothing, I'm the sword of the valley. If I go down, the whole thing goes down. I've protected the valley time and time again. I avenged your death. I'm not worthless. But his father continued to communicate in these hallucinations things that were actually said to him before he was sent off to be part of the Rangers Guild. Yeah.
So, what makes the prince stay in the Valley Keep? What's he been doing for these 5 years, apart from hunting down the harrowing? And how does all of that backstory that you're setting up actually impact the character of the prince right now?
Yeah, so the prince kind of stayed at the Valley Head Keep after all the events of the Battle of King's Fall. I mean, it is completely destroyed because it was completely overrun by the others, completely demolished by the Dragon of Drakh.
But you guys didn't keep the wall either. It was only Civ. And were you with them, Ethan? Was it?
It was Civ and I that. Yeah, Civ and then I as Balder.
Yeah,
were the ones who defended the wall out of all three of the pairings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after I was completely tired of defending the wall, playing another.
I mean,
we were all pretty exhausted. Let's just be honest.
It was all valiant efforts. That was basically it. We were all pretty tired at that point because we were all playing others and like going back and forth. And then Tila had the really big axe, which she like
just wrecked with,
tore up with. I remember Chow being frustrated because she kept poking him away. Or was that someone else?
What's someone else?
But
I forget who it was. Someone was frustrated.
There's no doubt that the Valley Keep is destroyed because even you, Mr. Prince Kodey.
Are you trying to poke the bear?
I'm just saying, man. You
Wait,
didn't keep the wall.
So I was talking to Thomas about this the other day. I don't know if you guys actually even remember this, but the prince only had one hand that entire time. The prince only had one hand since everyone got back together. Well, since the Battle of the Grey Bastion Fear, pretty much. Because my gauntlet was destroyed after fighting the others alone for 48 hours.
Balder also only had one hand at that point.
That's also true. And, I mean, I guess Balder did have Jarl Civ, so that's all the weaponry.
Well, you also... Balder had, like, the magical limbs from Civ.
Just the legs.
Yeah, he was just one-armed.
Mm-hmm. I did have a short sword, though, which helped with, I guess, the weight, so it wasn't like...
And I
the sword
was using ice. So, because the king is like, oh, wait, I can't actually wield this, so let me throw it to the prince.
That's what you wanted. You literally talked about doing a Cap and Bucky, and so we threw weapons back and forth.
No, that was for... we used to do that with Meraxis and Malum with the spear.
But I specifically remember you saying you wanted that for that fight.
No, it wasn't me. It must have been someone else.
Anyways, yeah, the Valley Keep is destroyed.
Yeah, the Valley Keep is destroyed, and I'm living there right now. With Nomad, in the remains. And I'd probably say there was a good deal of time that the prince was in this state of hopelessness and insanity and isolation just from, he was tasked pretty much from birth to protect James II. And, I mean, even like the ranger training and the knight training, like, it wasn't enough. Because this was something completely over all of their heads. So, I mean, I think a lot of the past plays into this because James I died, and Kodey was there for that. Joshua of House Wright died. Kodey was there for that. Kodey actually had to be the one to go and get him in Thymeria and watch his head get chopped off. And then the king died right in front of him. So, I mean, there's just a history of failure on his side, where he did dive into that insanity, I would say, because we all saw him just picking up dirt and, like, walking around with it, saying, like, he's still here, he's still here.
I remember watching Jared in that particular scene and him just laughing. I think he might have been uncomfortable because he just didn't know what to do in that situation. And I just remember watching the entire thing unfold and questioning, like, how are they going to play this? What are they going to do in this situation? And you were hardcore committing. And then you have Elliot that's throwing a temper tantrum on the ground. And then, like, Civ is kind of trying to get everyone together. Like, guys, let's get it together. Something just happened. We have to figure out what's going on. And just a side note, since we were talking about the prince with one arm, how do you feel about the fact that Elliot has the token that was supposed to go to you, so you had an actual arm in the time jump?
I don't really have any thoughts on that.
I mean, you only have one arm now because he took the token.
Yeah, I think he figured out how to manage in 5-6 years of only having one arm and having to fight the harrowing. So
you're just going to play the character with one arm now?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
You're not going to be able to use two-handed weapons with one arm.
I've been pretty proficient so far, apparently.
Okay. Thomas is nodding in agreement in the background here.
Well, when I first created him, I think he was just a really honor-bound, duty-bound, get the job done to whatever degree he was told to. And I think we see that a lot with just the first mission of going down and trying to get Hunter Felix no matter the cost, because of all the background with Hunter Felix and all the secrets he knew that could have damaged the valley. So the prince was not kidding around. And a lot of people kind of just took that as he's just a brash jerk. But I think that was more of a misread situation. The prince, like, obviously, so he's had a pretty tough life. A lot of his youth was war. He was misplaced from home, or uprooted from home to be sent out with the Rangers, of Marcus Watkins, and that was about, I want to say he was probably gone for at least 7 years. So from the time he was 10 to 17, 18 years old, he was training to be a ranger, which is a roughneck kind of crew. So he didn't necessarily get all the he got all the sword fighting and all that from the castle, and then all the how-tos to stay alive, as we saw from season 1 and season 2. R.I.P. Arn. But he got all that from the Rangers Guild, and then kind of just because the Rangers were kind of like a police force for the valley. They were sent out to get the job done, no matter what the cost, no questions asked.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
So I think that's where a lot of people are kind of misreading him, is not necessarily understanding what the Rangers actually were. We haven't really been able to flesh that out a lot.
Well, now they're gone.
Yeah, I guess they all would be. Yeah, they're all gone.
So might be, possibly, maybe the last. Not sure what's going on with his character, but he might be the last ranger. Yeah. Technically. Okay, 2 questions. Is the prince a brute, or does he actually know how to be diplomatic?
I would say he knows how to be diplomatic. There's just not really been any occasions where that would have been the best outcome.
If there was one character that the prince could kill with no consequences out of the entirety of LARP, season 1 all the way up,
random.
Who would the prince kill?
Without any consequences for him or for the entire world?
Both.
Oh man, no. Because I would say Queen Tila for sure, and that would have just stopped everything. Because there was one moment where the prince almost killed Queen Tila. It was right before she killed Matthew Skinnifer. Then Matthew Skinnifer died. Yeah. I would say I don't know. I would probably go back before LARP and kill Hunter Felix, like the king and the prince had talked about.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but in the lore of the prince and the king, of course, we're getting a little more into the Hunter Felix character as we've been getting further and further along. But the prince and the king had plans to kill Hunter Felix anyways. So when Beowulf took him captive, the prince's actual mission, that first LARP that we ever played, the prince's actual mission was to go and retrieve Hunter Felix so that he could be brought back to the king to be executed. And that is because he was a weaver of lies and secrets. And so the king and the prince were onto him, and they were more worried about these secrets that would get out to Beowulf, which would then cause destruction in the valley, which it did. Beowulf and his armies, they go to the Valley Keep, and they know exactly where to hit the Valley Keep because of the weaknesses of the Valley Keep. Hunter Felix is aware of those things, tells Beowulf of those things. So,
yeah, and I think had the prince been able to kill Hunter Felix even before that first mission, just when we believed that he was going sour, I think we would have never lost Victor Canis. Nikolai Canis probably would have remained loyal. We would probably have Crumb Canis as well. The Canis family in general. We had never lost Victor's Garden, the stronghold. We probably never would have...
I mean, the whole Civil War in the Pines wouldn't have happened as a result of Hunter Felix being killed earlier. He was a lot of the influence on Nikolai wanting to actually rebel against Victor. So
I probably would have killed the Mad King as well, the other Felix.
Oh, the Mad Lord Felix, yeah.
Because when I went down there in season 1 to try to make amends, I was planning on murdering that dude straight up. Just because of everything regarding Felix in general. He was no support and hadn't been support for years to the crown.
Yeah, don't let Hunter tell you otherwise. The Felix characters within the storyline are not
savages.
Yeah, they're not the greatest friends or influences, which says nothing about Hunter himself.
No, just the characters he creates.
Yeah, nothing about Hunter at all.
Wow.
All right, so that's the prince. You feel good about that? Did you set the record straight?
No, I feel like there's still so much more I could talk.
Man, you've been going for 25 minutes now. We still haven't gotten into Meraxes.
We might have to break Meraxes into a second episode.
Yeah, I'm game.
Okay. What else do you have to say on the prince then?
I mean, I really want to flesh out like that early history of the king and the prince and like the whole Bolton Rebellion. So maybe just that in general would be a neat side podcast. I think just in closing, realizing where the prince is at, because the party came up to bring him back to the New Valley to serve the queen. Could you maybe touch on why that is, and I'll tell you why he's not.
On the party coming up, you have Jared F. Stevens, you have Jarl Siv, and then you have Elliot Apollos. And the three of them are coming north to what is left of the valley. And it's the Greater Valley area that they're entering into. And so the party comes up to retrieve the prince because there have been whispers and rumors that the prince is alive still. He's a shadow. The queen has not seen him for the entire 5 years since the battle at the Valley Keep, since the king died. And so she knows what kind of warrior he is, and she knows that king's blood runs through his veins. And so the same blood that ran through King James's veins runs through the prince's veins. And so there's power in king's blood. That's a huge point that we hit in season 1 and season 2 a little bit, in season 2 at least. And so now we're trying to play that out a little more. And so the idea is the prince is one of the last hopes to rally together the Aspirian people to fight against these newer enemies. Of course, the Solaria were an enemy that we had been building up and anticipating war coming, and Queen Jennifer actually fights them head on at Port Unade. No, it's actually, it's in Port Unade, when she's taking all of the men, women, and children that couldn't fight from the valley and the pines and the white woods, and she's taking them all to go to the Black Isles with Brennifaus Knox. And so she fights them head on, and then comes across the Knights of Meraxis, and she knows the real threat that are the Knights of Meraxis. And so because of that, she is wanting to get the prince to come back in to help to fight against that and rally the people of Aspiria back together.
Yeah, and I think the prince is just he respects his brother's decision for the queen to be the queen, but I don't really necessarily believe he feels like he has an obligation to her, not even to fulfill like a last wish of his brother, because for the prince's entire life his obligation was to the Watkins family, the dynasty that was the Watkins, and continuing on that lineage. Kind of like the when you get into like Kings and Chronicles and stuff like that, you see the continuing of the Davidic throne, and you see good kings and you see bad kings, and I believe the prince is just like, well, this is done. Like it's kind of like the Northern Kingdom is just completely done when Assyria comes in and completely wrecks it all. I believe that's where the prince is just like, everything I've been taught to fight for is gone, doesn't exist anymore. Let them start new without me. They're better off without me. Let me. He's kind of in a sense living in the past, since the old valley is not really inhabited, since it's kind of like ground zero, I mean, what he's doing is working out for him. He pretty much only knows war and tracking and all that kind of stuff. So keeping at bay the harrowing in the area from moving south or anything like that, I think it's just an objective he has in mind. Yeah.